C, how are cryptocurrencies doing? It appears that they are really aiming for the moon. Many bullish indicators are appearing right now, gentlemen. Whoa, have we reached the stage when the gentlemen will finally start to accelerate and move really quickly, to the extent that we will not only build a new ultimate high and then dump it, but rather create fresh ultimate highs and continue to move forward from that point on, correct? Because $1 billion USDT was just coined at Tether Treasury this morning, this is a significant indication of bullish activity. Once more, it typically takes 3 days for this money to rush into cryptocurrencies, which is the greatest amount of time. In my opinion, it pushes and only goes into Bitcoin most of the time. However, if Bitcoin rises, gentlemen, unless Bitcoin's dominance is increasing, all other coins move or attempt to follow right. There are a lot of things going on here, therefore I believe we should discuss it in today's video. Consequently, this is a very bullish indication to imply that at the very least a new week has arrived, and this is the week because this week's results will confirm whether we should be bullish or negative. Are you curious as to why? Although a lot of data is being received, point number 2 will be crucial. That's all. On Wednesday, CPI inflation data is released. We just need to see that. Really, nothing else matters. PPI perhaps, but CPI otherwise. All right, so we'll keep an eye out for it on Wednesday. We're supposed to discuss it. I'm fairly certain that it must fall short of expectations, or that is required for inflation to reach the Fed's target, which is 2%, is for it to continue declining. This is absolutely correct. What will it do next? In response to the CPI report, the Federal Reserve Open Market Committee will determine interest rates on June 18. They will be keeping an eye out for this data, folks, and the market currently thinks, hey, the June decision is all right. So if inflation unexpectedly drops and attempts to keep up with the Fed, will the Fed begin to make cuts? Is a real possibility, as users of the FMC poly market estimate that there is a 98% chance that the Fed will not make any rate cuts or have any rate reduction adjustments on June 18th. Therefore, I assume that this is priced in. However, there is a 2% probability, right? Perhaps it's a wait one situation. That's it, guys. If that does show up, and they do allegedly or unexpectedly lower rates this month, a new degree of market explosion is imminent. Serious, because the market as a whole thinks they will simply hold rates. However, the likelihood of seeing a white swan is 2%. So, 2% is still a possibility, particularly when the CPI is at all high. This is why it's crucial. For markets, the CPI must be optimistic rather than bearish. All right, any inflation should decrease rather than increase. But as someone else noted, I'm not sure if it was present or not, I will attempt to locate it for you all. Powell will not alter rates regardless of the inflation report. In order to maintain their hoax of devaluing the dollar, the Fed always aims to ruin the economy and then repair it and destroy it again. Well, that's interesting. What are they waiting for then? Is it because inflation hasn't yet reached their goals, or because they truly want something to happen that will ruin everything so they can print a lot more money to rebuild it? Therefore, once more, I think this week will confirm whether we should be bullish or negative. Absolutely correct. And it's amazing how cryptocurrency is growing even before all of this information is out, which in my opinion may be hinting at something. Perhaps insiders are attempting to support everything correct and made an effort to anticipate developments before any of this info became available. The reason for this is that, as you are aware, Justin stays in China to do trade negotiations in London. I'm not sure if this has already occurred, but it is happening today. Although there hasn't been much news released, take a look at how many positive developments are occurring this week and then wait. Thus, I believe it will be next week, this weekend. Really, given that we have external discussions with ETS, we go live with the case update and the FOMC all taking place next week. That will be quite optimistic for XRP. What's going on then? The United States and China will begin trade discussions this week, and if this turns out to be bullish and they get to some sort of agreement, it's going to get nuclear. Suddenly bullish things are occurring. The United States claims that the handshake on rare earth agreements between China and London is side-seeking. Yes, and it takes place in London. Where does it start? That's where it starts, right? Everything takes place there. So it starts, it starts to manifest today when everything starts to move like a snowball and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Nevertheless, this must once more appear as bullish, gentlemen. At that point, there's nothing stopping us from going to the races. Why do we want to play this? Once more, there's a lot going on. I'm not even familiar with men. In fact, I'm a bit like mom blown here. So once more, this is a big yak because it's the reason why we're in a bear market or not. This is a period of adjustment. You understand why the tariffs are to blame. Slowly, one narrative that is connected to the tariffs is that the markets haven't pumped and are setting the ultimate highs. It relates to China and this meeting between America and China will stop if there is some sort of consensus, and this is interpreted as bullish. We're off to the races, which will lead to CPI. If that is bullish, it will be an even bigger snowball in the months ahead as inflation cools off or declines. That will be an even more crazy snowball because it will cause Jerome Powell to change his position and begin lowering rates. Can we see what's going to occur? I don't know why, but I feel a little happy because I'm actually receiving stuff. It's intriguing that the Trump administration has authority over export restrictions. Beyond tariffs and export restrictions, the focus of today's discussions is anticipated to be on China's exports of rare earth metals, which are vital minerals used in a variety of industries, including electronics, military hardware, and automobiles. Additionally, China places a lot of emphasis on US export restrictions pertaining to sophisticated microprocessor technology. Therefore, that is where the focus of today's discussions is expected to be. Pretty still awake, like I mentioned. The earth, rare earth metals, and just much everything else in the contemporary world are what America wants, right? And I think American expertise in China over there. Both parties have been extremely silent on the specific location and timing of these discussions. Yes, and since it's in London, we had to come see you. And it also appears to be quite London-like there. And how things have been here all weekend. Let's see. I'm not sure what to anticipate from the last chat. I suppose that's a recent development about the discussion from last week. Last week, both parties accused one another of failing to adhere to the previous decrees. President Trump reportedly made some headway on the minerals and materials are correct, and I'm not sure if that's what we're hearing about if it hasn't been released yet. This should be out later tonight. I smoked Trump-China trade deal tang bull activity this week, which is quite positive, and then the legendary crypto face appears. This is where you first heard it. I'll see this week at the top. That is really insane. If you're unaware of him, then crypto face, he is essentially a crazy trader, right? He has made a lot of money. He's from trading, I think, and he's coming out right. I'm not sure if he usually does this, to be honest, but he clearly looked at Bitcoin's charts and other data, and he clearly sees it as bullish because he claims to be trying to front run it. I think he smells a deal with Trump in China, which will then make or create bullish price action. Not to mention, I'll see you this week at the top. Will we actually hit or establish a top this week, or will we proceed in a way that is explosive, that mountain summit again? I'm not sure, guys. There is a lot going on here. For this reason, Bitcoin is leading every price movement, news, and catalyst that humanity has ever encountered. The price of Bitcoin recently reached $180,000. 0 cents here. Yes. 108,000 men. I was going to discuss the supremacy of Bitcoin is getting higher. Since everything is working as planned here, I'm going to say it in a later video tonight. However, have a look at Bitcoin, folks, don't you? The intriguing thing about Bitcoin is that if we start to stall on the weekly, it's a really dangerous sign because there will be a triple bearish divergence. So we need to keep pushing higher. It must continue to pump, or at least show a bearish divergence at that point. They're either going to pump it crazy here quickly, right? Or it's going to die shortly, which is why we can't stall for too long. Now that we've reached this moment, they must decide whether to pump or die. However, it appears to be very bullish at the moment if we consider all of the events that will emerge in the next week or two, this week and next week. Now let's look at our Bitcoin chart. See, let's have a look at it, gentlemen. That's absurd. Look at, oh my God, that's crazy, isn't it? I simply cannot quit grinning. Together we pump, try to maintain support despite health opposition. Pump, fail, broke, support, broke,